Is there a specific way you want to be introduced?
Yeah, just say Kevin or Kevin Earhart from PixelLit.
Fantastic.
That's the way it'll go.
Excellent.
If you're not feeling great about the last name, because I know it's one of those funky German names. You can just go straight with Kevin.
I got a funky German
But
name,
so yeah, I know you understand.
Yeah, I get it. Do you get weird pronunciations of your last name?
Yeah,
Because I
get Earhard, and most common though is Earhart with a T at the end instead of a D because of Amelia Earhart,
the famous one.
The famous one with a somewhat similar last name, except.
Do you think there's an ancient astronaut theory about Amelia
100%.
Yeah, there's gotta be, right?
There 100%. There is some sort of alien theory regarding Amelia Earhart's disappearance. Here, all the three: Amelia Earhart, Jimmy Hoffa, and Elvis. There's alien stories about
the same person.
They're all the same person. It is actually a skinwalker, and if you want to really get into some other cryptid / alien stuff, you know.
Oh, and you know I do.
Oh boy.
Did you know that we're recording a podcast right now?
What? I thought you wanted to just talk and be friendly.
Oh, Kevin, I never talk to my friends without recording them for content.
Gotta content everything. Let's monetize this.
That's exactly right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to It's Probably Not Aliens. My name is Scott Nicewander. Typically, I would say that I know nothing. But Tristan is not here. He's on paternity leave right now, and he left me in charge with coming up with an episode all by myself. So I actually did research this time, which is very exciting. And joining me on this journey is Kevin, I believe related to Amelia Earhart, correct?
Of course,
Kevin Earhart, is that exactly how you say it? From PixelLit
Yeah,
podcast.
Sure. Earhard.
Hard. It's a hard T.
It's a hard. It's
Earhard T.
Earhard, right? Earhard.
Okay.
Yeah, that's from PixelLit. Yes, Kevin from PixelLit. That is me, and I in this particular episode know nothing.
What? The tables have turned. I also apologize for doing the clunkiest introduction to an actual human being who is a guest on this podcast that will probably ever happen.
I appreciate it. I mean, what's better to be like just smooth and unremarkable or a little clunky and memorable? I like the clunky.
That's what I think. Yeah, I think so too. We're going to talk about things clunking together, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm questioning it. I wrote this episode.
I'm looking at the outline right now. It's a beautiful outline.
So today, what we're going to discuss is not necessarily something super cultural or even really super historical. That's more Tristan's whole thing. Instead, today, I wanted to talk about the most basic things that I could possibly debunk by refreshing us all on a little bit of like 4th and 5th grade geology.
Yeah.
By talking about things like natural disasters. And that's not geology, though, is it? That's just like natural science.
That's called earth science.
Earth science. Yeah. We're talking about earth science. We are talking about a little bit of geology because we're going to talk about things like earthquakes, plate tectonics, volcanoes. Those are made of rocks, I'm told.
You know, Scott, my mom would be really proud of me. She taught earth science for 30 years.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did she ever bring any of it home? Did you retain a lot of it?
No.
Oh, okay.
But she'd be proud that I'm making the effort.
I was going to say, you want to rethink that she'd be proud a little bit? So this is the energy we're bringing today.
True chaotic neutral today.
So I want to talk about the claims that ancient astronaut theorists make. A lot of this episode is season 4, episode 4 that I'm debunking because they have a lot. It's all about natural disasters, mega disasters, things like that. So, ancient aliens claims all over the place that enormous natural disasters are not, in fact, natural at all, but they are the results of alien technology impacting the weather, shaping the earth, molding humanity over centuries, millennia, because we are their playthings, I suppose. What do you think of that one?
I buy
Kevin?
it. I buy it. I'm in. Giorgio has got me. He's got me convinced.
He's got me. I've got some great quotes from Giorgio Tsoukalos as well as David Childress. They had some choice things to say in this episode. So
choice.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to break this down a little bit. This is not typically the format that we do, I don't think, but I want to experiment. So listeners, tell me if you are liking this format. Tell me what you think. But I want to present their evidence in full.
Ooh.
Dangerously so, because you could stop listening halfway through and go, Scott said all of this is true. But at the end, if you listen to the whole thing, I will attempt to explain it all in a way that makes more sense than what Ancient Aliens is trying to get at. And there's some really cool stuff here.
It's almost like a court case.
It is almost like a court case. I'm going to present their evidence, and I'm playing both lawyers.
Yes.
I'm going to present the evidence, and then I'm going to refute it. And then you, Kevin, will be the jury, I suppose.
And I am the jury.
Yeah.
I am a jury of his peers.
You're also the judge, because you can tell me to stop talking or elaborate. You can...
I can shout objection, like
judges
Phoenix.
shout objection.
I will shout out objection like I'm Phoenix Wright.
So let's get into it. So what is the evidence that aliens are controlling the weather or have been? It's not just all weather, right? It's mega disasters. It's disasters that are on, unthinkable scales, massive tsunamis and earthquakes and volcanic eruptions that destroy entire civilizations. Aliens might be behind it. So the first thing that I thought was interesting that they presented was there are reportings of UFO sightings and strange lights in the sky just before or after massive earthquakes occur, as if aliens either cause the earthquake or they're coming to see the final destruction afterwards, or potentially the lights are just some sort of, visual blast of the alien weaponry going off and causing the earthquake.
Yeah, I mean that's totally true, because in some and if I could pause and talk about another cryptid for a second, Mothman often appears before disasters. So maybe this is just like a Mothman situation, and there's something up in the sky saying, "Hey, there's a disaster coming." Just a little flare
maybe
gun.
It's a warning. They did go into that in the episode. Sometimes the aliens, they were like flip-floppy on whether the aliens were trying to warn humanity or if they're trying to destroy humanity.
Or
they're
whether
sort of
they were just trying to change
on
human history. That was the most common phrase in the episode, was either way, it changed human history. And we're like, well, they didn't change human history. It just human history just happened.
It just sort of
continued.
Happened. Yeah.
We weren't on a predetermined path beforehand that you could have changed.
Yeah, because I mean, we're jumping over the place already here, but like that, it did confuse me a little bit in this episode where they were talking about how in one story, they were warning humans about the Ice Age. And in other stories, they were causing massive destructions. So it's like, are the aliens responsible for just some of the mega disasters, but not all of them? Why couldn't they have changed? If they can change the weather, why didn't they stop the Ice Age? I don't know. It feels very confusing.
It might be multiple groups of aliens, and they just can't.
Oh, they're feuding it out.
They're feuding, yeah.
Okay. It's like, because they did sort of talk about humans like we were the aliens' plaything. So this is like an older sibling and a younger sibling just being like, stop playing with my toys. Well, if I can't have them, then I'll destroy them. Like
that could be it. It could be the Greys are saying, oh, I want to do this, and the lizard men are saying, I want to do this. It's a classic struggle amongst totally real alien races.
A tale as old as time. So let me talk about these earthquake lights a little bit more. This is a real phenomenon. Did you know that? Have you heard of this before?
I had not. No, this is, if that you are saying that it's real, blows my mind.
It is a real phenomenon. The earliest records of lights in the sky before or around the time an earthquake happens dates back to the Senriku earthquake of 869 AD. There have also just been tons of other reports, mostly throughout the 1900s and continuing all the way through today, as Ancient Aliens has talked about. So there are multiple reports of these strange lights in the sky, earthquake lights. Yeah,
this is they did a whole movie on this. Fire in the Sky.
What is that? I don't know that.
It's like an alien abduction movie where it's like people would see what looked like fire in the sky. And like it has been 30 years since I've seen the movie. I know the title. Can you
recount it perfectly from memory,
sure.
Please?
There's we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Just get the gears turning. No, turning. You know, I for someone who runs an alien podcast, I don't watch too many alien movies. I got to change that.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to split off from the Ancient Aliens and get into the alien media, just so you have those touch points.
Yeah, I mean, there were parts of this that reminded me of. Have you ever seen the movie Knowing with Nick Cage?
No, but it has Nick Cage in it, so
yeah. So it's a movie about Nick Cage. He finds this I guess algorithm or something, this code that allows him to know when natural disasters are going to happen, and they're trying to figure out where this code comes from, and it turns out it's aliens. So it almost kind of fits this exact thing of like aliens warning people potentially.
Right, and that is the Nick Cageiest movie I've ever heard of.
Not to spoil, that's a spoiler, by the way, that it's aliens at the end. So that's my bad. I didn't like that it was aliens at the end. It's very silly, but it fits with this podcast. Yeah. So anyway, early recordings, thousands of years ago, and people people claim to see these strange, colorful lights in the sky. Sometimes they look like the Aurora Borealis sort of lights in the sky, but sometimes they're like mysterious balls of yellow light. Other times they're blue or purple. They're, all sorts of weird colors, sort of different every time they happen. And they generally only appear for massive earthquakes at above a 5 on the Richter scale, which for context, 5 would be like a moderate, earthquake. Everything above that would be really strong and definitely cause a lot of damage to things.
Yeah.
So, and the lights can be seen from like tens of miles away, radiating from the epicenter of the earthquake. And again, this is like a real thing, which is absolutely wild.
Couching their evidence in an absolutely real thing is that's a strong start for Team Alien.
I wanted to work from their strongest argument backwards, just because I felt like it would be a good hook for the episode, I don't want to start with something weak and then people go, oh, they're just going to be silly. I want to start strong, and then we're going to work backwards to see some of their weaker stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So continuing on in this episode, they also point as evidence that volcanoes and volcanic eruptions are attributed in many cultures to gods who are, spewing their wrath or judgment or something. The Indonesian Mount Merapi, they talk about that. There's also the Hawaiian goddess Pele, the goddess of fire and lightning, who resides in Mount Kilauea. And I mentioned those choice quotes. I mentioned those choice quotes from David Childress and Giorgio Tsoukalos. And I have a couple here that I'd like to read. These appear in the episode that we watched, and they're great. So this is them, again, explaining how volcanoes and cultures relating volcanoes to gods are actually clues of aliens.
Ooh.
So, quote, all over the world, volcanoes often have some god associated with them who's controlling the volcano, causing earthquakes, causing devastating eruptions. And in fact, in Indonesia, the people there believe that there is an entire city of gods inside Mount Merapi. That's from David Childress. That's right, Kevin. There's an entire city
There's
of gods.
There's an entire city inside there. Yeah, up in that mount. I believe it. I'll buy it.
Inside of a volcano.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it.
It's very fun. Something that we obviously do hear a lot on Ancient Aliens is we don't ever want to sort of like, step on other people's cultures or beliefs, because a lot of this stuff is like genuinely very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the Greeks believe the same thing. It's a similar vibe. Mountains are majestic. They got, they're up at the sky. You love them.
But the reason I point this out is not to say that, the people in Indonesia who believe that there's an entire city of gods in Mount Marapi are silly. I think that's awesome, and I think that's rad. I bring it up because changing it to aliens, to take that sort of culture and then say, actually, it's aliens inside of there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just silly.
Yeah,
it's a thing that we encounter a lot on this show.
You're doing a little bit of the Tristan sad stuff, and I don't like it.
Oh, no. Trust me, I have a section where I try to make people sad at the end of this episode.
We're going to get sad later? Okay.
We might get sad later. But this was just one where I just thought this is a classic example of Ancient Aliens taking cultures, taking religions, and saying, actually, gods are aliens.
Yeah.
Except for, and we've talked about this before, but some ancient astronaut theorists draw the line at like the Christian god, where they'll be like, that one's the real one.
He's real.
Every other one is the aliens, though.
They're Poseidon, alien.
Alien technology.
Alien technology, everything.
And that Trident controls the
controls the seas and the earthquakes. They're not natural. They're alien. But you know what is natural? Jesus Christ.
Jesus. That's right. That's exactly right. And let's talk about this for a little bit. We talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but in this episode, they talk about this as well. Poseidon being an alien who has a technological trident that, causes earthquakes in the ocean that would create tsunamis and tidal waves and things like that. And the reasoning behind it was, you remember better than I do.
Yeah, so basically they say Poseidon used his trident to cause a massive earthquake that caused a tsunami that hit the Isle of Crete in the Mediterranean. And they said because of that, all of the pagans on Crete who would worship Poseidon and other Greek gods like him died, and Christianity took hold. And they were trying to use that as his motivation for doing it, therefore saying Poseidon killed the pagans so that the people could worship his good buddy JC instead of him.
It's so wild because they make the claim that, like, all right, the reason why Poseidon wiped out all these people is so that Christianity could take hold. Christianity, the religion famous for believing in Poseidon. The religion of Poseidon. Mm-hmm.
The Father, Son, and the guy who tends to the seas.
That's exactly it. The Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity. The Holy Tridentity.
Yeah, there it is. We got there. We got somewhere. That's why it's a trident. You're right. We make jokes good. Yeah, that's another thing they talk about in this episode. I mentioned the Hawaiian goddess Pele. Here's a quote from Georgios Tsoukalos. If anyone doesn't know who that is, you definitely do. He's the meme guy who goes, aliens. So, quote, when I read stories about ancient volcano gods descending or ascending from and into volcanoes, then I think to myself, are we really talking about something here that's a figment of our ancestors' imagination? Or is there some truth behind these stories? And the answer is yes. I don't think he worded that the way that he wanted to.
Giorgio.
Is it fake or is it real? The answer is yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then he goes on to say it wasn't some type of spiritual event, but it was where extraterrestrials descended from the sky in nuts and bolts spaceships. And like again, typical ancient alien stuff, taking spiritual, cultural stuff and turning it into aliens. We've seen this 1,000 times.
The thing I love of this is he's like, well, the only options are they imagined it or it's aliens. And he leaves off the table that it's like, it could have been a metaphor to explain something else. Yeah. No, can't be that. It's either they were seeing things or aliens. Or aliens. Which is what, I wonder if that's what unintentionally
The answer is yes. Like,
answer is yes.
Either you're imagining it or it's aliens. The answer is yes. Yeah, I think he was onto something there.
He was onto something there. Yeah.
So that's volcanoes, and we'll talk more about those. The next piece of evidence that they have for aliens controlling the world. This isn't actually a disaster thing, but it points to aliens carving, molding Earth to fit their needs. But Ancient Aliens does claim that plateaus, like the ones that the Nazca lines were carved into, were actually mountains that were flattened by alien machines.
Yeah.
So they could land their spaceships there. What do you think about that one? Pretty I
mean, that's that. You know what? We do that. We, us humans, actually do.
We do that.
We do that. It's if West Virginia used to be, it used to have these beautiful mountains, and a lot of them have just been obliterated. The tops have been blown off to get to that beautiful coal because capitalism.
Oh, we'll get to more of that.
So the aliens were just capitalists trying to get to our natural resources.
We've talked about that in a previous episode where there are theories that aliens created humanity as slaves so we would mine gold for them. And it's number one, why would aliens value gold? We do that arbitrarily. And number two, there's just pockets of gold out in the universe that you can just have.
There's there's a star that's it's not a star, it's like a diamond or something like that. There's things out there. I mean, if anything, maybe the biggest stretch I could give is maybe they need lithium or rare earth minerals, what we call the rare earth metals, and maybe they are as rare as they are here, they're rarer out there as well, and maybe that's what they need. But gold, it's the only reason we like it is because it's gold. It's shiny.
It's shiny. You can eat it. People put gold foil on things when they want to pretend like they're fancy. I know that. So this whole idea of aliens shaping Earth and doing stuff culminates in the wildest shit I think I've ever heard, which is that the Earth is actually hollow.
It's hollow. There's nothing in there.
Except I mean, there
maybe
is
cities of aliens.
There's whole secret cities of aliens down there.
There's oceans down there.
There's full oceans down there.
I love the reasoning of we've only ever been able to dig 8 miles down, and we know more about the core of the moon than we do about the core of the Earth. And we're how do we know about the core of the moon? We haven't dug the moon. So is there some other way that we can figure that out? And why haven't we done that we have done that to the Earth. We know that there's stuff down.
We drilled that extra 9th mile. We know all the secrets.
We're down there. We know what's up.
Yeah.
You saw that mine in Russia where it's you can't fly a helicopter over it because it's so deep it just sucks helicopters in.
Yeah. This whole idea, this was originally the hollow Earth was originally the idea that I pitched to you that we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the 5-minute clip that I sent you to watch had dozens and dozens of things that I would want to research and dedicate its own video to, because it is absolutely buck wild.
It is nuts.
And it's so interesting, but we'll get to it in a future episode, listener. We'll do it. We'll probably bring Kevin back on just to round out this whole idea here.
Earth stuff.
But I wanted to mention it because it is wild that they could simultaneously believe that the Earth is hollow and then also believe in all of these other things previously that they have claimed about plateaus and how do you get mountain ranges without tectonic plates? How do you get volcanoes without magma at the Earth's core? So there's lots of problems. And I would like to break down, now that I've laid out their evidence and their claims, I would like to break down why I think they don't really hold any water like the Earth's core secretly has with all of its secret oceans, apparently.
Miss Vito, does the defense's case hold water?
And we will get to all of this right after this quick break, potentially. So, Kevin.
Yes.
This second half, this B side of the podcast, if you will, is going to have a quiz in it pretty early on.
I'm ready.
Are you excited about that? Listener, you can participate as well.
You can participate. Get yourself some loose leaf paper or just shout it out, because who cares? It's your car or your sink that you're doing your dishes at. I know you are doing your dishes right now.
Wherever you're listening to us, tweet us exactly where you are at Probs Not Aliens when you're listening to this episode.
Yes,
that would be fun.
Please.
That would be fun for me. So originally I wrote a whole bunch of stuff at first refuting that the earth is hollow, but I'm going to save that for a future podcast episode. We're just going to work under the assumption that the earth isn't hollow. If you can follow me hypothetically for a second and just assume the earth isn't hollow and full of, I don't know, aliens or dinosaurs or something.
It's a big assumption, but I'll go with it.
We'll explore it another day, but if you can try to imagine.
Yeah.
So, do you know what mainstream scientists claim that the Earth's structure is made of? Like the layers. Do you remember in school when you learned the layers of the Earth?
So
this is the quiz.
Sure.
Go for it.
It's so you have the Earth's crust, and then you have the mantle, and then you have the something, and then the core. Is it 4 parts or how many parts is it?
It is confusing, and I think there's been new stuff since I was in school.
New stuff since I was in school.
They upgraded, they patched it.
They patched it version 2.0 of Earth.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to on the sheet that I share with you, I'm going to unblack out everything, but you got it about right.
Ish passable.
Yeah.
Oh, crust, mantle, core. Yeah.
Crust, mantle, core. But there are like parts of each one, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's stuff
and we're not going to
within.
get into that. Look, if you're a geologist out there or an earth doctor, I don't know what the word is. We know that there's lots of little things. The continental crust versus like the ocean crust or whatever.
Versus the Pizza Hut deep crust,
The cheesy filled crust.
Cheesy filled,
Bradley Upper Crust III from the Extremely Goofy movie. We understand that they're all part of the earth.
Yeah.
Mantle, upper mantle, lower mantle. I don't know what the difference is. Stop asking me. But it's made almost entirely of solid rock, that one. Then there's the core, which has the outer core, which is liquid, and then the inner core, which is solid because of all the pressure, but they're primarily iron.
Yeah.
And then these were new to me. I don't know if my school just didn't teach me these or they've been like new. They've been discovered.
Yeah, it's just upgraded learning materials, I guess.
Yeah. Have you heard of these? Lithosphere and asthenosphere? Was my school just bad? I did go to school in South Carolina, so that's...
So, I believe I've heard those terms before, but I could also be thinking that I've heard those terms before. It's like deja vu is... deja vu is basically just your mind thinking that you're remembering something. It's like flooding your brain with the chemicals that...
Yeah.
You feel when you're remembering something, even though you're not remembering anything at all.
They're thought fossils. So, lithosphere, that's a reference to another episode. I pride myself on not having many inside jokes so that people can listen to whatever
thought
episode.
Fossils is something that you can carry forward. It's good.
All right. So these are important. The reason I have this quiz is because these are important things that will help explain other parts of why the ancient alien claims don't really add up based on the science and how we know them today. As always, I'm not a scientist, so just, please don't. This podcast is more entertainment than anything.
Yeah.
But so the lithosphere, it's not really mantle or crust. It sort of has parts of both, but it's got like pockets of magma that cause it to slide around. This is what the tectonic plates are sort of made of. And tectonic plates, for anyone who doesn't know, those are like, I didn't like write this on the script, so I have to pull it from my like 5th grade memory.
From
but
the
tectonic
brain.
plate, come on, Bill Nye, help me out. Tectonic plates are parts of the Earth's, I guess, lithosphere now. That's a new word to me.
Yeah.
That shift around.
Yeah.
So these are, if you've heard that of Pangea, and then suddenly Pangea starts breaking apart and forming into these other different islands and continents and things like that, and colliding together, causing mountains, that's what tectonic plates are. And that's because of the lithosphere.
Yeah.
Because it's very weak, so it slides around on the Earth. That's what all the movement is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good enough explanation. I mean, if anyone wants to explain it better, they can at me on Twitter.
At Kevin.
At the Arcadeologist or at PixelLit Pod. Just at me, and I will sit there and listen. Or my podcast partner will, and he'll be totally confused.
You're doing an enormous service for me, because any wrong things now will go to you and not me.
They will go to me, and I will gladly take them, because I enjoy it when people get indignant about things. It's fun for me.
Okay, so then the asthenosphere is under the lithosphere, and that's the thing that's weak and allows the plate tectonics to move. So the lithosphere is the plate tectonics.
It's the plates,
and then the asthenosphere is like the thing that's like softer and weaker, and that allows everything to move.
The tectonics.
Yeah, you got the plates and you've got the tectonics,
and together they form plate tectonics, like Captain Planet.
That's exactly right. Those are the important things. That's what the Earth is. That's all it is.
Is that
wild?
That's
wild. All it is. There's no dinosaurs under the Earth that are alive anyway.
It's like when a baby comes out, the skull is soft, and this is actually why Tristan is not here, is babies. The skull needs to move together and give room for the brain to grow, and
then it fuses back together.
And now the Earth is like a baby skull that never fuses.
The Earth is a baby skull. That's correct, and it never parts of it collide. It's never fully covered in bone. It's
never fully covered in bone. There's always,
it's got soft spots every which way.
It
is a hazard.
I really regret that entire metaphor.
Well, that's why it's so dangerous if we ever got hit by a meteor, because there's more soft spots than not.
There's more soft spots. It's way too many soft spots for a meteor hit right now. We need a few more years to grow the brain inside the Earth before we can.
And that's what the volcanoes are. So anyway, the tectonic plates, the reason I bring all this up, super important, because they explain literally everything else that we've talked about so far. Volcanoes, earthquakes, plateaus, they likely all wouldn't exist without the structure of the Earth being what it is. Hey, Kevin, here's a big question.
Sure.
What are volcanoes?
Oh boy. Okay. So volcanoes are when there's hot stuff. There's hot stuff underneath the Earth. There's a lot of pressure, and it just starts needs to come up, and it starts pushing its way up, and it's forming. I think it normally forms around where mountains normally would be forming anyway. So there's the hot stuff, and it's pushing the ground up, and then volcano. There's active and inactive volcanoes. When an active volcano is when that hot stuff is pops the top. Boom. It's coming right out, baby.
It's an earth pimple. You got it right. That's basically it. Yeah. Volcanoes are not alien hideouts.
No.
Necessary, as far as I know. Basically, all volcanoes are places where magma and gases sort of like rise up from the pressure and the temperature inside of the Earth and force their way out through the Earth's surface. And over thousands or millions of years, the collection of lava that's like spewing out starts to like pile and, sort of form these like cone-shaped things that are volcanoes.
Yeah, like the Hawaiian Islands are formed out of the activity of volcanoes.
Absolutely. And as you said, volcanoes are often formed where these tectonic plates converge or diverge as things collide or rift apart. The magma comes seeping up, and that's where volcanoes come from.
That's great.
Look, we're learning a lot of simple geology facts that I remember from when I was in elementary school.
I am smarter than a fifth grader.
That's right. Take that.
Take that, fifth grader.
Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah.
Was that who hosted
That was the host, yeah, Jeff Foxworthy.
All right, cool. Take that.
Take that.
Jeffrey. Here's a follow-up question. Now, I did not know the answer to this.
Yeah.
Before looking it up. And this has always been like a mystery inside of my head. Do you know where plateaus come from? Like why they form?
I am actually reading your outline right now because I have no clue. Plateaus are like one of those things where like, that's a neat feature of the Earth.
It's wild, right?
Moving on, but it's always cool. It's like it's like a table up there. You know?
So if anyone doesn't know what a plateau is, it is just like it looks like a flat mountain. That's what it looks like. It's like a raised up mountain, but instead of it coming to a point or a peak, it's totally flat.
Yeah, actually, this ties into something we were talking about on my show. There's a few different forms of it. There's the smallest of which is called a monument, and then it's like monument, butte, mesa, plateau. I think in terms of the sizes of this.
And then I think it even goes further to like Great Plateaus or something. Something
like that. So there's a few flavors of basically the flat top geographic feature.
That's exactly right. And so it's always been weird to me because mountains make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like the reason why mountains are pointy is because they're, plate tectonics and things like mushing against each other, pushing against each other to create these like sort of craggly mountaintops. But plateaus, I had no idea where they came from. And there's like a lot of different ways that they can form. But this one was, I believe, the most common way they form and also the most fascinating to me. So when the lithosphere, remember that term, that's the plate tectonic thing that's sliding around.
Yeah.
When the lithosphere underlying a broad area is rapidly heated by an upwelling of like hot material, magma and such like that, underlying the asthenosphere, the little weak part that allows it to slide around, the consequent warming and thermal expansion of the mantle causes an uplift to the overlying surface. So imagine a flat area and then under it gets like hot to the point where everything starts to expand upward.
Yeah.
And it just rises. The flat area just rises up.
Not as like a point, but just like this plane, part of it just went whoop.
It just got hot and it expanded and it went up.
It went up. That is cool.
Absolutely wild.
Earth is so neat. It's so much cooler.
Earth awesome.
Some of these answers are cooler than aliens.
That's what we say on this show. Now, wait till you hear this next one. This is the one that you're all waiting for. I know.
Oh, yes.
Volcanoes and plateaus. Some of you might have already known all that stuff. But remember the earthquake lights?
I remember them.
You remember how they're a real thing?
Yeah, they're a real thing.
So just a refresher from 40 minutes ago or something.
Yeah.
Earthquake lights are lights that appear before or after an earthquake happens. They appear in the sky, bright, colorful lights, and research is still going on as to figure out why this happens. There's a couple explanations that I've found here. Some scientists believe that the high stress of the earthquake ionizes the oxygen in rocks, and then that oxygen travels up to the atmosphere and continues to ionize the oxygen in the air, which creates pockets of plasma that emits light.
That's cool.
So like as the rocks are rubbing against each other, they're just like creating, oxygen that goes into the atmosphere and creates plasma and lights off.
And for those of you, for those who can't see, Scott
we're rubbing our hands together.
Not unlike Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid when he heals Daniel LaRusso's leg. That's pretty much how the rocks release and create the ionization.
Absolutely. And then another hypothesis is that, I should also say, if you don't know what earthquakes come from, that's just the plate. That's just
all
like
plate tectonic. It's like,
that's just fault lines rubbing against each other.
Everything that Scott has talked about so far, it's all explained by the plates running into each other or moving away from each other.
That's why it was important to establish what the Earth was made of. Yeah. All of these things can be explained by elementary school like science, except for this stuff, which is with the earthquake lights, which is interesting. So another hypothesis is that some rocks that contain quartz might create intense electric fields when under high pressure, like the pressure from tectonic stress. I didn't know this, but it makes sense, I guess, that certain materials like crystals contain electric charges. Is that why people believe in crystal like healing and things like that?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
mean, that sounds like a thing that people believe to be a thing. I mean, I've heard of people believing in crystals having healing powers.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that whatever electric fields or whatever possible charges that they might have can probably only be released under, as you say, a period of intense tectonic stress, not by dangling it over your kneecap while while in some downtown LA crystal dispensary.
I mean, you got to get the root chakra aligned. You can't do it any other way. Yeah. So those electric fields then may produce light. Yeah. That one's a little more iffy, but it was interesting. It made me think about crystals and things in Steven Universe. So, but potentially the most promising lead is that in 2014, researchers found that when two layers of the same material rub against each other, it generates voltage. So researcher Troy Shimbrot, I hope I'm saying that right, of Rutgers University reported, quote, when the grains split open, he was like rubbing grains of rocks and sands and other materials together. When they split open, they measured a positive voltage spike. And when the split closed, a negative spike. That's the end of that quote. But this crack allows the voltage to discharge into the air, which then electrifies the air and creates a bright electrical light when it does so. Yeah. So it seems like just stuff rubbing against the same stuff might create voltage, which could make electric lights in the air.
Yeah, it's basically not unlike lightning in some regards in terms of just a discharge of electric energy.
Lightning from the earth. Quake lightning. I don't know. There's got to be a cool name.
Quietening.
Quietening.
Well, in Highlander, it was called the quickening. So
they're related.
They're related because there can be only one.
The reason why this is so interesting is that because these lights happen before an earthquake in a lot of cases, researchers hope that by getting to the bottom of this phenomenon, it could provide more information that will allow them to predict when earthquakes are going to happen and, get people to safety faster, which is super important in these, huge disasters.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to have to burst the bubble here.
Oh, no.
Remember when I said that this is a real phenomenon?
Yeah, you got me. You got me all believing in it. Why? What's up? What are you going to tell me?
It might not be a real phenomenon.
You're ruining my night, Scott.
I know. I wanted this to be true so bad when I heard it. So as cool as this sounds, and there are reports of this happening, and again, especially for how it would help detect earthquakes before they would happen, we still don't have a clear idea of what these lights even look like. Accounts seem to have been wildly, different. They have wildly different descriptions over all the different reports, all the different locations throughout all the years. They don't line up with one particular, visual image.
Right.
So that indicates that they might not be real. There's not one thing that people are seeing. It could be they're seeing all different kinds of light phenomena, or they're seeing none at all, but they're thinking they're seeing something, but really it's just like a funky cloud or something, which is like the most disappointing kind of alien when it's just a cloud.
A cloud. That's sad when you really think that you've seen an alien and it's just, a cumulonimbus cloud or something like that. That's a name of a cloud, I think.
Sure.
I think so. I'm really
you sounded confident.
I stated at the beginning I wanted to make my mom proud, and that was an effort. Efforts were made.
Yeah, I think so. You explained volcanoes good.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, this is the disappointing part of it is I mentioned at the start that some people see blue lights, some people see yellow spots, like orbs. Some people see, this like aurora borealis sort of thing. Some people see multicolored stuff. And because there's no clear, like, this is what they look like, this could just be the case of a lot of anecdotal reports and people putting them together as if it is the same thing when they could be all kinds of different things, and it could be the case of, scientists searching for something that doesn't exist and coming up with explanations for something before it's even proven to be a real thing.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of what you should do. And it's sort of a big fault of shows like Ancient Aliens.
Yeah. The Ancient Aliens really rolls with the I like to call it like the Ben Shapiro logic of just like take this hypothetical as true and then go with it.
Yeah. Like, for example, if we were to take the hypothetical that the Earth was full of stuff and not hollow.
Right.
Which we all know it's hollow.
Right.
Yeah. So that
all
doesn't
the last 20 minutes or so it's pointless because we'd all know it's hollow.
Yeah.
So.
This is all just like a weird thought experiment.
A weird thought experiment. But imagine
you can
if
just
you will.
ignore this whole podcast.
Imagine if you will.
Yeah.
That it's not.
Yeah. Oh. You got my attention.
Hey, now.
So I just want to end this episode. We've learned a lot, I think.
I think we have.
I have a couple more things to say. I've got like a big soapbox to get on in a bit, but it left me with like a really interesting question that Ancient Aliens tried to explain away with, aliens, but it made me wonder why there are so many myths about gods controlling the weather and controlling nature and things like that. And there is one last choice quote from Georgios Tsoukalos that I had to include in here.
Our favorite.
Because it gets right to the heart of this question.
Yeah.
Quote, "Is there something extraterrestrial behind these stories of volcano gods?" Absolutely yes. Because all around the world, our ancestors worshipped nature. There was a god of thunder, there was a god of rain, and even a god of a volcano. However, there was a fine line between worshipping nature and worshipping something else. And that something else was extraterrestrials. Georgios Tsoukalos never disappoints.
Never change, Giorgio, because that's a lot. That is he just puts it out there and does not care at all, and you have to respect it just a little bit. That he believes in himself so much. He could teach us a lot about self-confidence.
He sure could. I just love that there was a fine line between worshiping nature and worshiping something else. Doesn't go into detail about what that fine line is or when one thing applies versus the other, but that's okay. I guess he's just leaving us up to our best judgment.
Yeah.
So we mentioned Poseidon, we mentioned Pele, we mentioned the gods at Mount Marapi, all sorts of other, weather-related stuff. We've heard of Thor. He's a superhero.
Yeah.
So these are gods from all different sorts of cultures who control the weather, control nature, and so many cultures had tons of, sun gods are everywhere and all across all sorts of cultures. And rather than filling in the why are there so many gods of nature with, it's because the aliens controlled the weather and the aliens are gods. I think there's a much simpler answer. And I bet you probably know it off the top of your head. If you wanted to, I don't know if you want to.
I'll go for it because a lot of times when in ancient societies, gods and religious practices, and a lot of people still practice these religious practices today, but the gods and the stories about the gods were used as a way to fill in the gaps in their own knowledge. Why is it raining? Well, there's a god of rain that is either pleased or displeased, depending on the context of the rainfall. They were ways that we, as humans, we love to understand things. And when we can't understand things, we have the urge to fill in the gaps. And when we find new information, scientifically, we take that new information and we replace or we adapt, and we move on. And again, they use the Dogon people, unfortunately, as an example in this very episode. And it was a bummer to see them brought up again and be like, well, they believe in Sirius. And be like, come on, guys. We've been over this, So that's basically the why. That is the why. It's a very simple answer.
It's a very simple answer. And to go into it just a little bit further, like nature and the weather are so vital to the existence of humanity that it controls to a very large extent where we're able to live, what kind of agriculture we're able to achieve, And, weather specifically or nature in general is where everything that humans live off of, that's where it originates. So like, it's so vital understanding nature, understanding weather, even when you don't understand nature and weather, as you were saying, we come up with these stories and we come up with these myths and we come up with these cultures that try and help explain something to give us a little bit of control back in our lives.
Yeah.
So throughout human history, we've relied so much on nature and weather to survive. And we love, humans love patterns. That's a thing that we know about the human brain. So having a culture or religion that aims to help explain something as incredibly difficult to predict as weather lends a comforting sense of like understanding and control. And so instead of being frustrated that you can't do anything when you want sun and there's no sun, or you want rain and there's no rain, and you just have to deal with what the weather is, instead of just being frustrated and living with that, suddenly with the implication of these gods that you can, pray to and sacrifice to and try to appease, it gives you something that you feel like you can control.
Yeah.
And it just feels a little bit more comforting. It's probably much more comforting that way for someone to hear that, tsunamis happen because Poseidon was angry. So all you have to do is appease him.
Right.
And then there won't be any more earthquakes in the ocean. And then it's probably not as comforting to hear that tsunamis happen just because that's how the earth is built, and it sucks and it's not fair sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's not fair. But I totally understand the need to try to exert or find that modicum of control in your day-to-day life, because it feels like chaos without it. And then taking that away from them and saying like, whoa, aliens.
So you have to appease the aliens instead of and who knows what the aliens want?
Who knows what the aliens want? Yeah.
Gold, apparently. They need Earth gold.
Earth gold.
So this is the part where Scott makes you a little sad.
Bring it on. I'm ready to cry.
Cue the sad music. So imagine this dystopian future where terrible weather is happening around the globe, which I know is hard to imagine right now, that the Earth is being plagued by terrible weather.
Couldn't be us.
It's another hypothetical, if you can go with, Controversial take, Kevin.
Hot take.
I think the Earth is great and I think we need it.
But Elon Musk says we can move to Mars.
He did say that.
Yeah.
He did say that we could Mars.
We can Mars.
We can Mars. We could Mars if we wanted to, if Elon was so gracious about it. But I think until then, and even after then, it's probably worth taking care of the planet that we have right now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Yeah. Just a little bit. Or a lot.
I mean, if this podcast has shown you anything, I think it's that this world is full of really interesting places and history, and it's and just current people right now who exist. You and me, and really that's just it. You and me, Kevin.
Yeah.
That's really it.
It's a dual solipsism right here.
Yeah. So for our sake, we need to save the planet. And you may have heard in the past that just like 100 companies are responsible for over 70% of global emissions. And that is true. It does come from a statistic in 2017. So the numbers may have changed since then. But I want to point that out because it's not necessarily like you and me can do it by stop using plastic straws sort of a thing.
Yeah.
It's corporations. It's
the big boys. It's the fat cats with their capitalism, and
that's what it is.
We all read the Lorax as kids, and
for
a bunch of us it seemingly didn't sink in, because the Dr. Seuss, he told us there's the Onceler, and the Onceler is he's gonna chop down all the truffle trees, and then we're not going to have any more. But real life, then
real life happens.
But that's actually happening in real life. The thing Dr. Seuss wrote about decades ago in the Lorax is a real thing that is happening right now.
Yes. And there's 100 big companies making their thneeds. Or so, again, statistics may have changed since then, but it's the general idea, right? And so it's frustrating because we all probably want to tangibly help the planet, which is why things like Team Trees or Team Seas are so popular. Mr. Beast does that. And I definitely don't want to drag that down as a bad idea. Like any help to the planet at all is great. But the reality is that if you don't know what Team Seas is, for example, it raised like $30 million US, pledging to remove 30 million pounds of marine debris from the ocean last year, which was it's genuinely amazing. But the frustrating part is there's nearly 50 million pounds of plastic. So they removed 30 million pounds by the end of last year. But there nearly 50 million pounds of plastic go into the ocean every day.
That is less than a day's worth of garbage going into the ocean that they managed to get rid of.
Now, again, I don't want to knock on those sorts of things because, again, anything. I mean, that is still a massive. That's 30 million pounds of plastic that's not in the ocean right now. That's amazing. But we also, I mean, if we're going to save the planet, little acts like that, I mean, they feel huge and they are huge, but I firmly believe that the way to do it is political change, you know? Not to mention the places that are the most vulnerable to climate change's negative impacts are countries and communities that are home to largely non-white folks. So if you can donate anything to save this wonderful planet that we're on, please, please, please donate to a charity like the Sunrise Movement, which seeks to end the corrupting influence of fossil fuel executives on our politics and to elect leaders who stand up for the health and well-being of all people. Because like I said, you know, going up, picking up trash, it's all so helpful, genuinely. But I think the way to make the biggest impact is through fighting a good political fight. Yeah. So, which I know is not as... It's not as fun.
It's not as fun. It's not as sexy. But I agree. It's not going to be an individual and it's not going to be a charity necessarily picking up trash on the side of the road that does it. It's going to be a system in place that looks after the well-being of the earth that we all live on and we all love because it's our only earth. It's the only one we got.
It's true. Until we Mars.
Until we Mars
together.
Let's all Mars together.
Let's all Mars together. So that's the episode. I know it was a bit of a soapbox at the end there, but this is climate change is really important to me personally. As I said, it really only benefits me and Kevin. So like that, I'm 50% of the people that this really affects.
Right.
So I can't not talk about it.
Sure.
Kevin, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. I love talking about this stuff.
Thank you. Where can people find more of you and your work on the internet if they like hearing your voice and they like hearing your jokes?
Oh boy, if you like hearing my voice, I have a podcast called PixelLit, and on PixelLit we read and review books that are novelizations of video games. So Scott was actually on a couple weeks ago or whenever this airs. He was on previously to talk about the novelization of Mega Man 2, which was absolutely fun and hysterical, and we loved having him on. So if you want to listen to us, PixelLit, we are available on every podcast network, wherever fine podcasts are freely distributed. You can find us there. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I am at the Arcadeologist, or you can follow the PixelLit Pod at PixelLit Pod. We also have a website, pixelitpod.com, for all your podcasting needs.
Yes, and we'll have all those links in the description to this episode. I highly, highly recommend checking out the Mega Man episode that we did. The two-parter episodes that we did. There's two of them you can listen to.
Yeah.
It was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had on a podcast because it was talking about a book based on a game I had never played before.
So many layers removed from the actual source material.
And it was just a delight. Please go seek that out. It was amazing. Tristan couldn't be here, but if he was, I'm sure he'd want me to tell you to follow us at Probs Not Aliens on Twitter, and you can find me at Nerdsync. That's my YouTube channel, NERDSYNC. Hopefully I have a video out this year by now. We'll see if I do.
I believe in you.
And then I'm also just on Twitter at Scott Nice Wonder. I don't plug that one as much, but I'm gonna do that.
You should.
Scott Nice Wonder. Follow me.
Follow him.
And thank you to everyone who wrote reviews for the podcast. I think from now on we're probably just gonna read the names reviews of people instead of the full reviews, because these episodes are getting longer and longer, it seems, these days. So next time that I record, I'll have some names pulling up. But we have over 100 reviews on iTunes, and that's amazing. I think you can review on Spotify now.
You can.
I've heard that.
You can.
Oh, yes.
It is not obvious. I think it's in one of the little 3-button menus up at the top, but you can drop 4 stars on Spotify.
Amazing. That's, I think, where most of our audience
You're
listens.
not doing that bit anymore, right? It's 5 stars now.
No, yeah.
5 stars
You
only.
know what? We'll be 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and then we will be 4 stars on Spotify. I'm not doing it again.
Cut 6 months later, there's just another pile of regret over the bit.
We're not doing it. But yes, thank you to everyone who's doing that. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, the truth is out there. Probably.
Maybe.
That's not what it is.
It's probably. Oh God, I ruined it.